Good morning. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is not backing down from her unprecedented rejection of two Republican appointees to the committee investigating the January 6th assault on the Capitol. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy had vowed to pull all 5 of his picks from the committee unless Pelosi reconsidered, but she says the 2 picks in question have made statements and taken action that, quote, make it ridiculous to put them on such a committee seeking the truth. Now Republicans are vowing to launch their own investigation to answer why the Capitol was ill-prepared for the riot, something they blame on Pelosi. The Select Committee will hold its first hearing next Tuesday, and McCarthy is set to hold a press conference this afternoon. We'll bring that to you live when it happens. Wildfires are growing in the West. The Dixie Fire in Northern California is now over 90,000 acres, doubling in size since Monday. And the Tamarack Fire has spread farther into Nevada, triggering road closures and evacuations. The fires are so big, the smoke is reaching thousands of miles across the country, blanketing New York City in hazy fog. Meanwhile, a California couple is pleading not guilty to 8 felony counts after allegedly igniting the El Dorado fire during their gender reveal party last year. And the NBA champion Bucks are set to celebrate their first victory in 50 years with a parade through downtown Milwaukee today. The team will ride double-decker buses to Deer District, where about 100,000 fans gathered to watch Game 6 on Tuesday night. The parade is set to start at noon Eastern, and you can watch it live on abcnews.com. And there are new concerns now growing over kids and COVID. The Academy of Pediatrics says now is reporting more than 23,000 pediatric COVID cases in just the last week. And that's raising added concerns about slowing vaccinations. Right now, nearly 162 million Americans are fully vaccinated. That's 57% of the eligible population. Whit Johnson has the latest.
This morning, the U.S. facing a COVID resurgence. New cases tripling in the last month, driven in part by the Delta variant, now estimated to make up 83% of new infections. Hospital admissions on the rise in 36 states.
This group that we're seeing now absolutely could and should have been prevented. This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
And now growing concern about unvaccinated children. More than 23,000 new pediatric cases in the last week, twice as many as the end of June. In Georgia, the family of Wyatt Gibson says he was a healthy 5-year-old before passing away on Friday. They say he contracted several infections, including COVID, strep, and staph days before. The latest surge raising questions about breakthrough infections. Overnight, an outbreak in Provincetown, Massachusetts, growing to at least 256 cases. Officials saying more than 2/3 of those testing positive are fully vaccinated.
And this morning, the Washington Post is reporting that top White House officials are currently debating whether to urge vaccinated Americans to once again wear masks in more settings. And overnight, during a town hall, President Biden suggesting that the CDC could also soon update its mask guidance on children in schools. Diane?
All right, Whit Johnson, thanks for that. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, COVID cases have surged more than 155% in the last week. At least 91 people there for the Olympics have tested positive so far. And now protesters are ramping up their calls for the games to be canceled entirely. Let's go to ABC's Kenneth Moten live in Tokyo for more on this. Kenneth, good morning. Good evening to you. The U.S. gymnastics team is now staying in a hotel rather than in the Olympic Village, saying they feel like they can control the athletes and their safety better there. Is there a general feeling that there's not enough being done within the Olympic Village?
That is safe to say, Diane. I can't talk to these athletes, but I know that from these actions of literally moving from the Olympic Village to a hotel, that says a lot right there. We know that when it comes to the surge of coronavirus cases, it is concerning. It's concerning to the people of Tokyo. It's concerning to the 11,000 athletes who will make their way into this country over the next 2 weeks. It's concerning to those who are connected to these games, considering that more than 90 positive cases since July 1st have happened when it comes to Tokyo 2020. And so what we've seen here is, yes, the U.S. Team USA Gymnastics, they moved to a hotel from the Olympic Village because of some of the positive cases that happened there in the Olympic Village. They believe that they're able to control their environment, their situation better there, and keep themselves safe as well. Even Simone Biles spoke out about it and says, look, we feel like we'll be safer here. And again, 80% of the 11,000 athletes are fully vaccinated. And with the variants and breakthrough cases, there's so major concerns, even if you're fully vaccinated. And so we do know that there's still that major concern, considering that Tokyo has seen a 6-month high, Diane. We are at 2,000 cases a day here in this capital city.
And First Lady Jill Biden is leading a presidential delegation to the Olympics. What's on her schedule while she's there, and how's she staying safe?
Well, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden has been pretty busy since she touched down here today in Tokyo. Actually, when she flew into Tokyo, you asked how she's staying safe. Well, also exercising, still social distancing and other COVID protocols. But she actually took a COVID test on the plane from Washington after making a pit stop in Alaska. She touched down here in Tokyo, had dinner with the Prime Minister and his wife. We understand that as she leads this U.S. diplomatic delegation, she will attend the opening ceremonies, but she's also expected to meet with Team USA athletes. She's expected to go to some games as well during her 3-day stay on the ground here in Tokyo.
And the opening ceremony is less than 24 hours away now, Kenneth. What can we expect from that?
Well, we know in the past we've seen very vibrant, full of life opening ceremonies throughout the Olympics history. This will be different, and that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone because of this pandemic. We heard from Tokyo 2020 officials. We've heard from them every single day, but especially today, they made a point to say that this will not be a festival, that this will be a solemn occasion delivering this message of togetherness, but they will try to put on somewhat of a show again, but it won't be a show like we've seen before when it comes to the Olympics, because they realize how unpopular these games are here in Tokyo, here in Japan. They realize that we're in the middle of this pandemic, but they want to show this recovery from this pandemic and show that we're still recovering from the pandemic, but that we're all in this together. Again, it won't be that vibrant show that we've seen in the past. Also, when it comes to this, 11,000 athletes, you won't see all of those athletes parading through the opening ceremonies. We're actually expecting about half of that, and for the obvious reason of they want to make sure not all the athletes will even be in the country at the time, but they want to make sure they keep these athletes social distance, follow the protocols to keep them safe.
And I know you've gotten to see some of Team USA's training sessions, Kenneth. How are the athletes dealing with all of this? Because just being at the Olympics is stressful enough.
Right. Exactly. There's no doubt they're trying to block it all out and block out any distractions. They're used to blocking out distractions, but COVID-19 is not a distraction. It's a serious virus, and they know that their health is important, is our priority, especially as they compete. And so that's on their mind. It's definitely stressful for them. You mentioned, Diane, that I went and saw some training today from Team USA gymnastics. Diane, can I get a little country on you, a little South Carolina country on you, and say,
bring it.
Woo! They were incredible. Those women are so daggone talented. I mean, watching them, I was at awe. I couldn't post any videos and pictures. I don't know if you follow me on social media, Diane. You do. I like to post sometimes.
I don't know if you'll follow you.
I could not post anything because... Right. Yeah, you do. And, when it comes to this, we have to, follow some strict rules. And the rules say I cannot post the video. I cannot, and I wanted to. I wanted to very badly. Maybe I will on August 9th when this is all over. But I will say, watching Simone Biles, watching her teammates practice there, train, it was remarkable. And I think that's what Olympic officials really hope will happen once these games start, that kind of people will take their minds off the fact that we're in this pandemic, that we're seeing this surge in coronavirus cases, and you will see that it is all about those athletes and what they've trained so hard for. And watching them, I just will never, ever forget. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like that. My first time at the Olympics. Again, can't wait to post that video and those pictures. I saw Simone Biles, Diane. That's a big deal.
I am jealous. I have to admit, I am jealous. Our resident reporter and cheerleader, Kenneth Moten in Tokyo. We appreciate it, Kenneth. Thanks.
And resident country boy.
Oh, that too. Absolutely. All right, so let's bring in ABC News contributor Dr. Todd Ellerin now from South Shore Health for a little bit more on the medical side of all this. Dr. Ellerin, always great to have you. U.S. beach volleyball player Taylor Crabb tested positive at the Olympics. Now he says that he was careful and he was vaccinated. Now in Provincetown, Massachusetts, more than 2/3 of at least 132 people who tested positive over the weekend are said to be fully vaccinated. We heard about some of those Democrats on their way to D.C. also testing positive, a few baseball players that have tested positive, all saying they're fully vaccinated. So how worried should we be about these so-called breakthrough infections when you get infected despite being fully vaccinated?
Diane, this really is a battle between vaccines and the Delta variant. The vaccines are our molecular shields, but since only 50% of the country is vaccinated this time, we really may need some additional layers of safety, like masking, in order to kind of decrease this. But here's the good news. Even though the vaccines may have some reduced effectiveness at preventing infection, they are all so good at decreasing the risk of hospitalization and severe illness. So we know what we have to do to prevent severe disease, and we just need to do it.
Now, new cases have tripled in the last month in the U.S. California is reporting numbers they haven't seen since the winter surge 5 months ago. So are we heading back to mask mandates or even lockdowns?
The answer is we've already seen some mask mandates in certain parts of the country. I don't think we're going to get to national mask mandates, but let's face it, if you have the Delta variant that's spiraling out of control and you want to keep our kids in school, if we want to keep our businesses open, if adding masking is that extra layer of safety along with vaccination, I do think it's a small price to pay for keeping things open. So I do think we're going to see more masking. I don't think we're going to have a masking mandate this summer.
And the CDC advisory panel is meeting today to discuss the need for coronavirus boosters. What do you think will come from that meeting?
This is really important. I think the thing I'd say is, and I want to give, my personal experience, we don't have a lot of people in the hospital right now, but the sickest patients are really those immunocompromised patients that haven't responded as well to the 1 or 2 dose vaccines. I'm really hoping that the CDC does give a green light for allowing immunocompromised patients to get a booster. But, there's still not a lot of evidence there. So it's hard to know what they're going to do. As far as the general population, the bottom line is that the vaccine is working and it's preventing hospitalizations. So I think that's key.
All right, Dr. Todd Ellerin, always great to have you. Thank you.
Take care, Diane.
And coming up, hundreds of thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes as flooding devastates one of China's biggest cities. When we come back, we have the latest on the ongoing rescue efforts. Also ahead, the new warning from the IRS about thieves trying to take advantage of people looking to receive child tax credits. Stay with us. Welcome back. Rescue efforts are underway as floods in central China have forced hundreds of thousands to leave their homes. The unprecedented rainfall has left at least 33 dead and roughly 8 still missing after more than 500 rescues so far. ABC News senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell has the latest.
This morning, a frantic search and rescue mission as devastating floods swamp one of China's biggest cities. Unprecedented rainfall in Zhengzhou in central Henan province, leaving at least 25 dead with hundreds of thousands forced from their homes. Terrifying scenes below ground. Floodwater gushing through the subway system. Passengers trapped as water rises beyond their chests, some forced to stand on seats just to stay alive. At least a dozen died here, more than 500 eventually rescued, but some still missing, with growing fears the death toll is going to rise. Above ground, an apocalyptic vision like some disaster movie. On Wednesday, this shocking video released showing a kindergarten underwater. Rescuers forced to use plastic tubs to float the toddlers to safety. Repairs to this dam underway as this morning, forecasters warning more rain is on the way. Diane, it's remarkable, isn't it, how often we now seem to be reporting on these extreme weather events. Remember the flooding last week in Germany we were reporting on? Well, more rain fell in just 1 hour in China than the 24-hour downpour that caused those scenes of devastation in Germany. And with intense heat waves now from California to Siberia, flooding in Germany and now in China, scientists are pretty convinced that this latest rainfall in Henan province was almost certainly linked to global warming. Diane?
All right, Ian Panel, thank you. And the IRS is out with a new warning for families looking to receive child tax credits. They say thieves are trying to take advantage of people by stealing personal and financial information. Ariel Reshef has more on what you need to look out for. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you, Diane. Billions of dollars in those checks have already been direct deposited for millions of families across the country in just the last week. But already the IRS is warning that criminals may be looking to exploit this process and steal your personal and financial information. So here are some of those major red flags to look out for. If you're contacted on social media, email or phone or text asking for personal or financial information to help speed up the process or increase your payments. Also, any pre-recorded, urgent or threatening messages warning about a lawsuit or a possible arrest. And lastly, if you're asked to make a payment with a gift card, wire transfer or cryptocurrency, all big red flags. And remember, the IRS will never reach out to taxpayers asking for your personal or financial information via email, text, phone, or by your social media accounts. Diane?
All right, Ariel Reshef, thank you. And an investigation is underway after a 14-year-old girl died at an Ohio water park. The incident is sparking new questions about what kinds of regulations are in place for local amusement parks. Trevor Alt has that story.
This morning, authorities are investigating the tragic death of 14-year-old Kiara Jones after she was pulled from the water at an Ohio amusement park.
There's a 14-year-old girl went underwater without a life jacket, and she never came back up.
Officials say Kiara was found in open water, 8 feet deep, at Land of Illusion near Dayton. She was not wearing a life vest, even though the park's website says they're required due to the deep waters. Witnesses say friends, family, and lifeguards were unable to spot her.
It was pure chaos. When the lifeguard did come over, he was yelling, trying to get other lifeguards, and it took time for him to get people's attention.
How long has she been down there? We've been looking for like 12 minutes now.
The sheriff's office says the park is fully cooperating.
We assume they had lifeguards. Don't know. She definitely did not have a life jacket on at the time.
Fatal drownings can happen in as little as 20 seconds. And authorities say Kiara was underwater for about 30 minutes before she was pulled out. Rescue workers immediately performing CPR, but she did not survive. There is next to no federal regulation of small amusement parks. Oversight instead happening in a patchwork system that varies from state to state. And this is not the first amusement park tragedy in recent weeks. Earlier this month, 11-year-old Michael Jerimillo was killed when a raft he was riding overturned at an Iowa amusement park.
And Diane, the park has not yet responded to our request for comment. They remained closed yesterday in the wake of this incident. Ohio does allow the government to investigate serious accidents at amusement parks. And as we heard from the sheriff's office, an investigation is underway. Diane?
All right, Trevor Alt, thanks for that. And coming up, dating apps saw a surge in users during the pandemic. And now that vaccines are easily accessible, people are ready to get back out there. When we come back, we look at how those in the dating pool are trying to make up for lost time. Welcome back. You may have heard the term hot vax summer, and as more Americans get vaccinated, they are eager to get back on the dating scene. But some singles aren't looking for just one person to meet. They are trying to make up for lost time and find two partners at the same time. Elwin Lopez has the latest.
Rev Rucifer has found love, but is still looking.
Too hot to handle for the Brooklyn street.
Scrolling through dating apps.
25, too young. They pretty much open to anything.
In search of a second match to add to her existing one.
I'm looking for Saturday night orgies and white picket fences. So right now, I am currently in a polyamorous relationship. I have an amazing partner who I love so much. We've been together just over 2 years, and it's polyamorous, and he's married and has a family and has 2 children.
After being cooped up, quarantining, many Americans are ready to get out and mingle.
As we're coming out of the pandemic and we're wanting to connect back with people and meet new people, I am definitely more open and curious about new relationships and new friend groups and all kinds of newness and seeing like what the world has to offer. I feel like dating apps do provide a way to find like-minded people, because I can pretty quickly tell if you're going to be a kinky type of person that's going to be into what I'm into.
Throughout the pandemic, the number of users on dating apps hit an all-time high. The top 20 dating apps had a cumulative average of 17 million daily users, 2 million more than a year before, with one option in particular seeing a wild surge.
We had a threesome and I just never left.
Excuse me.
Did this conversation involve this?
The app Field says between 2020 and 2021, it has seen a 670% increase in singles listing threesomes at the top of their wish list. According to a study done by Kenzie Institute researcher Dr. Miller, that's also the most common sexual fantasy amongst Americans, with some 95% of men and 87% of women having fantasized about sex with multiple partners.
In our recent survey, we actually found that 52% of Americans, a majority, said they tried something new in the bedroom during the pandemic. And the people who tried new things are actually much happier than those who didn't. I think that's also part of where this interest is coming from in threesomes and being a little bit kinkier. It's just a way of interjecting that novelty to try and get the spark back in the relationship and keep it going.
Lockdown pushing some users to swipe for a very specific kind of love on apps.
We suppress sexuality so much that we never explore it properly.
Anna Karova's partner launched Field after she told him she was attracted to women. Now she's the app's CEO.
It's impossible to think that sexual desire is not normalized already. It's a part of us, it's a part of our bodies, and it's what we're all born with. So normalizing it is just bringing it back to where it should be.
The app encourages that normalization, and the pandemic, she says, served as its catalyst.
There's just been a desire to be honest. I think we're just, and especially younger generations and people these days, we're just fed up with lies.
It's referred to as ethical non-monogamy. For Rev, honesty is a big selling point.
Before I started having ethically non-monogamous relationships, I was primarily in relationships that weren't the best for me. I was often finding myself being the other woman and having people cheat on their significant others with me. I wanted the freedom to really allow relationships and dynamics to be what the best dynamic is for me and that person.
But these types of relationships go way back to pre-pandemic times.
I'm David. I'm Mark. I'm Ray.
They call themselves X9, X26X. After 3 years of a two-way love story, David and Mark branched out to add one more.
Some people wouldn't fit what we wanted. Some people wanted to break us up, and some people just didn't have the same mindset that we had in a way, so it kind of didn't work. So it was just crazy how we met Ray.
Now, with Ray on board, they have taken off on social media in hopes that all thruples are less side-eyed.
So I feel like now with social media, we have the power to let the world know, polyamorous, being poly is actually let's normalize it. It's happening in 2021. People say, are you jealous? Because he's always with Ray and this and that. But I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like jealousy is kind of like a disease. So for me, I had to eliminate the whole jealousy. I have an open mind.
For Rev, the jealousy is of a different type.
I want my own husband. I want my own family. I want my own children. I know that's where my jealousy comes from, is that my partner has those things and I don't.
The endless swiping, a step closer to the goal of having a family of our own to add to the mix.
We live in a society in which that heteronormative, monogamous lifestyle is the norm. It is what we are conditioned to believe is the only way. But there are other ways that are natural, that do feel good, that can be supportive, that bring more love, more understanding, more respect, and that is what I think poly is about. It's about more love, not less.
Elwin Lopez, ABC News, Atlanta.
All right, Elwin, thank you. And that does it for this newscast. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for joining us. And remember, ABC News Live is here for you all day with the latest news, context, and analysis. I'll see you back here at 3 p.m. Eastern for the breakdown. Stay safe.
The crowded courtroom fell quiet as Jeffrey Dahmer walked to his chair under heavy sheriff's escort. If people came expecting to see a monster, it was hard to tell merely by looking at Dahmer.
Mr. Dahmer, you're charged with 4 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. If convicted of each of those counts, you face a term of life imprisonment. You're also charged with habitual criminality. That would add an additional 10-year penalty to each count upon conviction. Do you understand that?
I understand, Your Honor.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.